Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar featuring IM and our certified partner Snorkel, how to use instant feedback on student thinking to offer responsive instruction. Whether you are just getting started with IM Math or looking to deepen how you respond to student thinking, today's session is all about making those moments more visible and actionable. We will introduce you to Snorkel and how it can help surface student thinking and provide immediate feedback that you can actually use in the moment, even if this is your first time seeing the tool. Our contributors today will be the following wonderful people, each of whom brings a unique perspective and a treasure trove of personal experience in teaching IM, facilitating professional learning with IM, and thousands of hours of combined classroom time. My name is Ryan Mora, the Director of Client Experience here at Illustrative Mathematics, and I have the pleasure of serving as the host for today's webinar. We'll be joined today by Sarah Caban, Fatima Al-Kasi from IM, John Lavin, and Annie Shu from Snorkel. Sarah was a lead writer for IM K-12 Math, and she was a math coach and teacher for over 15 years, 6 of which included teaching in a one-room schoolhouse on a small island off the coast of Maine. She now leads the creation of our timely and relevant professional learning experiences that empower educators to teach with confidence and curiosity, leading to more equitable and joyful instruction of IM K-12 Math. Fatima is a PK through 6 content specialist and former classroom teacher with 7 years of experience helping students develop confidence and understanding in mathematics. Guided by her passion for equitable and engaging learning, she designs instructional materials with the content team that promote curiosity, joy, and champion student voice. John is a former high school math teacher and instructional coach, now co-founder of Snorkel, a platform that helps students explain their thinking and receive real-time feedback. Annie is the Director of Growth at Snorkel. She has spent her career advocating for accessible, equitable education. In a more math-focused chapter, she was at Desmos celebrating student brilliance and helping everyone see themselves as a math person. We also have some great folks working behind the scenes to help us with your questions and answers as well. We had a great response to our registration for this webinar to attend live or have the recording shared with them. So please note that if you asked to be contacted by somebody at IM when you registered, a member of our team will be reaching out to you soon if they haven't already. And now before we dive in, I want to take a quick moment to show you how to engage with us throughout today's session. If you would like to turn captions on or off, you can use the Show Captions feature to view subtitles if that's helpful. Feel free to use the chat box to say hello, connect with participants, or share any aha moments. But just a quick note, if you have questions for our presenters, please don't put that into the chat. They might get missed. So instead, use the Q&A feature. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen, right where that red arrow is pointing on the slide. And that's the best place to drop your questions for our moderators and presenters. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the session or at the end. We are really excited to have you here and encourage you to participate. This webinar is part of a series that we're doing to highlight the amazing work of our IM certified partners. We know that when it comes to IM Math, implementation matters as much as our curriculum itself. So working with an IM certified partner ensures districts receive the coherence that makes IM Math so effective. Every certified partner is reviewed and collaborated with by IM to ensure that their platforms, services, and supports reinforce the curriculum as designed. Without that safeguard, districts risk using or introducing tools or services that quietly shift instruction away from the proven model that drives results. So look for the IM certified seal, and you can trust that what you're getting is built to work with IM Math, not just alongside it. Our IM certified ecosystem includes our core curriculum distribution partners, professional learning certified partners, and our supplemental products and services partners, which includes our focal partner today, Snorkel. So here's a quick look at where we're headed in today's session. We're going to start by grounding in the IM framework and how using Snorkel can reinforce some of the core principles of IM Math. We'll get a foundational understanding of what Snorkel is and how it works. And then our learning journey will begin with a demonstration of how Snorkel can provide enhanced access to mathematics through its powerful language capabilities. Next, we'll explore how student thinking can be deepened through multiple attempts of revision and chances to go further with mathematical ideas. Finally, we'll look at how teachers can leverage the feedback provided to students by Snorkel to inform instructional moves. Each section will include a live demonstration of Snorkel by our partners. So let's jump in with our first stop on the journey. the IM framework, and our Snorkel partnership. So as a reminder, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature of Zoom to ask them. This will keep us organized and ensure we can get to the most amount of questions as possible. Use the chat for some shoutouts. Sarah, I turn it over to you. I'll make sure they can hear you though, Sarah, with an
So
unmute.
sorry.
There we go.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's take a quick look at IM's foundational framework. Okay, so at IM Math is a problem-based curriculum. And at IM, we aspire to create a world where all learners know, use, and enjoy mathematics. And our problem-based instructional framework supports teachers in structuring lessons so that students are the ones solving the problems. So a little bit more about the IM Math curriculum is that we foster the development of mathematical learning communities. That's really an important part of our curriculum. We also give students access to the mathematics through a really coherent progression. And we offer teachers the opportunity to deepen their knowledge of mathematics, student thinking, and their own teaching practice. Fatima, can you tell us a little bit more about the elements of problem-based teaching and learning?
Yes, of course. So teachers' curiosity in students' thinking serves as an entry point to problem-based teaching and learning, and ultimately the students' access to grade level math. In IM classrooms, students learn mathematics by making sense of problems, have access to grade level mathematics, play with mathematical ideas before formalizing them, learn language as they develop math understanding, learn by collaborating with each other, listen to, respond to, and value each other's thinking, and ultimately know, use, and enjoy mathematics. I'll pass it over to John to give us a quick introduction to Snorkel.
Hi, everyone. My name is John. I'm one of the co-founders of Snorkel. I was a high school math teacher for 10 years. And in my classroom, I actually used IM. So this is sort of like this big full circle moment for me, but I'm really excited to get to share it with all of you today. And if you are watching live, you want to drop in the chat. If you've ever used Snorkel before, I'm curious how many people are already familiar. But we're going to share a little bit more here today and also demo this for you. I think at its core, Snorkel is about this idea of how do we capture student thinking in really rich ways. I didn't use a lot of technology in my own classrooms. I think so often, so many tech tools have looked like students putting their answer into a box and they're all right or all wrong. And we know that our students' mathematical thinking is so much richer than that. It's so much deeper than that. And so at Snorkel, we really try to capture that, celebrate that, and give students feedback on their thinking. Can you go to the next slide here, Ryan? And then I'm going to pull up. Great. Okay. So at its core, what we allow students to do is we actually allow students to record and explain their thinking on questions assigned by their teacher. We have students talk out loud through their thinking process, and then we can give them feedback on not just their answer, but on their thinking process, on their strategy that they're using, on the vocabulary that they're using in their response. We can celebrate what's going right and ask them questions about what's going wrong. And we can surface to teachers trends from across the class, and we can surface to teachers better understanding of how their students are going about solving problems and responding. I'm going to share my screen here to show you an actual Snorkel activity and just I'll go through the student experience here real quick. Is this showing up okay, team? Okay, great. All right, so this is the fourth grade math question from IM. It's asking about this rectangular frame and finding the missing width of this rectangular frame, and we know the length, and we know the perimeter. So this is how students see and experience Snorkel. They have a question from their teacher. They have different tools that they can use to show their thinking, so they can draw and highlight and type. And what makes Snorkel really special is when students are ready, we actually have students record and explain. And so I'm going to press the record button here at the bottom of my screen. I'm going to start talking out loud and explaining my thinking on this IM math question. I'm actually going to make some mistakes as I do it too, just so you can see what happens. All right, so it says that we've got a rectangular frame whose length is 29 centimeters. I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle, and I'm going to label one of the sides as 29. I know on a rectangle that opposite sides are equal, so I'm going to label this other side as 29 as well. And I'm going to add those two sides together, 29 plus 29. let's say I think those add up to 48, and the total perimeter is 146. So you get 146 minus 48, and that gives me 98. And so I think the width of this frame is 98 centimeters. All right, I'm going to press end, and then I'm going to press submit. And what happens when I submit my work in Snorkel is the AI analyzes not just what I showed on the screen, but also what I said. And so we can analyze students' thinking process, like I said, their strategies they're using, the academic vocabulary that they're using, and we get students talking out loud about their thinking and learning. And we see that really increases student ownership of their work. Students get really invested in doing really well in Snorkel. So here's the kind of feedback that Snorkel gives. It says that I got it incorrect. I got a 2 out of 4 for my explanation. And I get some praise on what I'm doing well. Great job recognizing the opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. You correctly identify both sides as 29 centimeters. Second piece of feedback, I noticed you calculated 29 plus 29 equals 48. Can you double check your addition? And then last piece, after subtracting lengths from total perimeter, you found this 98 centimeters remaining. What does that represent in terms of the rectangle's sides? So we're not giving away the answer. We're actually asking students questions about their thinking, allowing them then to use that feedback to respond again and revise. And so that's the core of the Snorkel experience. I'm going to pass it back to you, Ryan, and then the slides have now gone away.
Oh, thank you. There we go. I'll get the slides back up. Let me make sure we've got them there. Here we go. There we go. We're seeing that now? Fantastic. And I think, Annie, were you going to say a little bit more about our partnership?
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. I see some familiar names on the call, so you know that I love IM as a very excellent, high quality instructional material. There's a number of things that we both believe in as orgs. So we think that math goes beyond right or wrong. We really want to focus on that explanation of thinking that you just saw from John's quick demo. And that is true regardless of language, format of input, or method of problem solving and how you get that answer. So again, for this, IM provides the basis of the high quality instructional materials, and Snorkel provides the how to surface student thinking of it all. So what this looks like right now, as you can see here, is that cooldowns are in Snorkel. There's practice problems coming later, but right now our bread and butter is you do a cool down and then you do revision based on some of the feedback that you get. So if we go to the next slide here, this has been out in the wild only a very short amount of time, but we already have a number of different districts across the country that are using this combination of IM and Snorkel that we're very excited about. And then a little snippet beyond this is that we're actually partnering with a number of research orgs across a number of different studies to make sure that this works across all different contexts. So we're working with WestEd and AIR on both the role of voice and motivation persistence and student engagement, as well as the intersection of IM and Snorkel and building rigor and coherence. So I'm gonna try to share my screen and we're gonna bear with me really quickly here as I do the same problem. We're going to do this a little differently. A thing I'll just mention really quickly as this introductory snippet is I was not an English speaker when I was part of the US K-12 school system. So I knew, like a number of different things about math, but I could not express them in any way here. So here I've toggled my language to Chinese. I'm going to respond to the same question, but I'm going to do this in a way where I'm not necessarily going to have it read out loud, but I'm going to explain this in a combination of both my native language and English, and then Snorkel is going to give me feedback, even though it will be in a combination of languages. So here we go. Please don't judge my ability to do parallelograms and quadrilaterals. All right. 我觉得是这个形状，this side 和 this side 一模一样，same with this side and this side. 因为一个 rectangle 两边是一样的。嗯，只说这边是29 so this is the same. And then 146减29减29。Let's see. 98. Um, and then this is two of these, so I'm gonna uh, divide by 2. And then this is where I'm going to stop because I'm not really sure where to go from here. And I'm going to submit that. So again, a number of different things here. I did some of that right. I did some of that in English. I definitely did not do all of that in English. And Snorkel is still going to give me feedback because, as we all know, if we have students with developing languages, that they're not going to do an entire problem in one language or the other. They're going to be developing their language as it goes on. So Snorkel will still give me feedback. So I did a lot of explanation. I did a lot of pausing in my explanation, but I did a lot of explaining here. And a number of things I'll highlight here is that I'll be able to play my feedback out loud. So if I am better at language comprehension spoken aloud, I can do that. And if I want to translate that feedback to English, I can also do that. One of the things you'll take a peek at later is it'll also help the teacher see what the student has said, even if they don't speak the student's native language. And then one of the other things here is if I want to go back and check what I've said, I can also toggle that. So again, going back and forth, you can see this mix of it literally gave me the subtitles in both languages because I did a lot of mixing. And then if I wanted to go and respond again, I can use my previous whiteboard to go ahead and take a look at my previous feedback and then respond accordingly. And then I think we'll turn it over to the IM folks to talk a little bit about why that's so important.
Absolutely. That was an amazing demonstration of the language capabilities. And Fatima, I'm going to bring it over to you to just show how this really ties into all of our beliefs about math language access for English language learners.
Yeah, so thank you, Amy, for that demo. It was incredible. In the IM classroom, sense making and language are interwoven, and IM classrooms are language rich and language demanding learning environments for all students. To support students who are learning English in their development of language, our curriculum includes instruction devoted to advancing language development alongside mathematics learning and fostering language rich environments in which there's a space for all students to participate. And as you observed, Snorkel can be a means of supporting that access and discourse that occurs in the classroom.
Yes, this is all really incredible. And I think we are seeing very clearly why this partnership is so valuable. So thank you all. We will move into our next topic now.
Great. So we're going to take a look at one of our hexagons that we mentioned earlier. It's essential that students can play with a mathematical idea before formalizing them. So let's take a look at how Snorkel can help students do just that.
All right, this is me. I gotta share my screen here again. So I think one of the things that Annie just alluded to, and that's really core to how Snorkel gets used in the classroom, is we're giving students really immediate personalized feedback. And oftentimes they're using that right away, applying it right away to try multiple times. And we see that as really, really valuable and powerful. And so often when I'm talking to teachers, they will tell me, like, I didn't even ask my students to do it multiple times, but they did. And some of my students did it 3 times or 4 times. And I think we have a couple of theories about why that is. One is the immediate the power of immediate feedback is of course is present and really powerful. But I think another part of that is students' voices attached to this work, and when their voices attached to it, students feel so much ownership over that work. And so I want to share with you an example here from a student explaining their thinking, and then the student actually gets this wrong. And then they're going to re-record and re-explain where they actually make an improvement. And I am actually going to stop sharing and reshare because I didn't share my audio when I just shared, and I want to make sure that I correctly share my audio so you all can hear this too. Okay, can you see my screen okay? All right, here we go. Nope.
Okay. So the first picture shows that Karen's clock at home when she leaves school. For school. And the second picture shows the clock at school when she gets to school. How long does Karen take to get to school? Explain how you found your answer. So I figured out the times for both of the clocks. This one right here is 8:52, and the one at home is 8:34. So we start off at 8:34. Why don't we just round that up to 8:35 for a second? You'll see why. So now, when you say, well, why don't we just draw how many we just took away? 1. And then let's also do it on this side too. So take away the 2, make that a 0. Now, let's do it again. We took away 2. So, now that our numbers are easier to work with, we have 8:35 to 8:50. So we can skip count by 5s. 5 minutes to get to 8:40. And then we know 40 plus 10. So 15 minutes so far. But now, since we have 4, since that this one was actually 4, that means that we have to subtract 1 to 15. So that means that now we'd be 14 minutes to 8:50. But then, we also subtracted 2 from this. So that means that we actually have to add 2, which is technically equal to this one, plus 1. So it took her 16 minutes to get to school. I kind of did this right here on purpose, so then I could do this. 16 minutes. Okay.
All right. He's got a brilliant explanation, and he's doing so many things really well, right? He's got this sort of sophisticated strategy of maybe I can round those numbers and find out how far apart those numbers are, and then I can unround them at the end to figure out what was missing. He does make a little mistake there at the end when he's trying to add and subtract to get back to the numbers that he should get for the total amount of time that has elapsed. But what you see in his feedback is he actually gets praise on the strategy and approach he's taking. He gets celebrated for the way that he's approaching the skip counting, and then asked to double check that piece around the adding and subtracting at the end to undo that last step. And so I think what makes this really special for me as a math teacher is this idea that we can like validate students' different pathways and different approaches and celebrate those and give them feedback on not just is the answer right or wrong, but like where maybe that breakdown happened, where should we think deeper and try again. This same student responded a second time, and so I want to show you his second response. He actually chose on his own volition here to switch strategies slightly, so you're going to actually hear him use a different strategy, but he was also being affirmed in the previous strategy he was using as well.
I was doing 8:34 to 8:52. So I started off with a jump of 10 to get to 8:44. Then a jump of 8 to get to 8:52. Simple as that. And then I added both of them up. It took her 18 minutes.
He found a strategy that he liked expressing there a little bit more. But I think there's this really unique opportunity where students are actually using and applying feedback right away to revise their thinking. And we want to support that in every classroom. And we see as a result of using Snorkel, oftentimes students get that investment and really want to try multiple times and improve.
I just love that, John. I could listen to that so many times. And you can just hear the confidence in his voice both times. And so clearly that's another awesome example of why this partnership it works so well. At IM, we just, the role of revision in math class is an integral part of our curriculum. And we just saw there that there are so many benefits to having students look back and revise their work. Clearly, they deepen their understanding when they're, fixing their own mistakes and even trying a different strategy maybe because they realized it might work more efficiently. And they also develop metacognitive skills, so self-monitoring, evaluating, thinking about their own thinking, which I think is so beneficial. And clearly, as we've seen in both examples, strengthening their communication is a big part of reasoning and revising and communicating your ideas in math class.
And I'll add here, Sarah, is so our partnership with IM and the IM curriculum and content is we've got all of the cool downs pre-built in the platform. Coming this summer, we'll have all the practice problems built in the platform as well. But I think one of the things that we have seen over this past school year is as teachers are integrating Snorkel into their classroom, it's actually and allowing them to use those exit tickets in a slightly different way, where it's not just try it once, you're
Mhm.
done, and you move on, but actually allowing teachers to be responsive in the moment of like, okay, you got it wrong once, take a couple more minutes and you're going to work on this again while other students are moving on to something else. And I think that there's this opportunity to think about formative assessment
Mhm.
differently in the classroom, where formative assessment doesn't just have to be something at the end of class because that's the only time that the teacher has to collect and look at everything. You can actually do formative assessment mid-class, and that can actually inform what's happening in the lesson. It can inform what students do next. And so there's this really powerful, I think, opportunity that's arising from using this tool in a really consistent way with the IM curriculum materials as well.
100%. It repositions the cool downs as something to continue using and learning into the next lesson, which is one of the things we hoped that they would be used for anyway. I really appreciate that.
Yep.
That pretty much takes our whole transition right there. The final focal area that we're going into is teacher instructional insights, which we've already gotten a little taste of it already.
Yeah, John, you started to talk a little bit about this. We're near and dear to this, and we try to integrate it into all of our professional learning that we absolutely believe that teachers are genuinely curious about student thinking and they want to use it to drive the learning. And we just saw that the example in the cool downs is one way that teachers can leverage student thinking to move all the learning forward.
Great. This one also really resonates with me as a teacher. And I think, one of the reasons I shared at the outset that I didn't use a lot of tech in my own classroom was it captured just the narrowness of a student's response and just captured their answer traditionally. And I think that has a disadvantage for the student. Obviously, we don't get to celebrate all of their rich thinking. It also has a disadvantage for the teacher. And so often when we're using technology in the classroom, there's this real unfortunate sort of byproduct, which is we create more distance between the teacher and their students' thinking. And our goal is really to actually bring teachers closer to their students' thinking. How do we capture, celebrate, raise awareness of more of how your students are thinking, how they're problem solving, how they're approaching things? And so transitioning right now here, so far everything we've looked at has been the student side of Snorkel, how students see and experience and respond to feedback in Snorkel. But this is the teacher side. So on the teacher side of Snorkel, we have a dashboard where teachers can see all their student responses in real time. As students are submitting their work, these are automatically being updated, uploaded, and scored by the AI. When teachers can, each of these is like a small video artifact, right? I could actually take my cursor over it and preview what's happening in that response. If I click on it, I can look at the feedback my students are getting. We give teachers full control over how the AI is scoring student responses. There were some great questions in the chat earlier here around, what's the rubric? How is it 0 through 4? How can teachers control that? The answer to all those questions is, yeah, teachers can control what the AI is looking for in student responses. Everything from the IM curriculum has been pre-set up so that it's ready to go. But you can also put your own questions into Snorkel as well. And we actually have the AI create a criteria for success and allow teachers to edit and adjust it. When teachers see that feedback and students see that feedback, teachers still have control to actually go back. Maybe I listened to this one. I actually think this one's just a 3, or maybe I move it up to a 4. I can adjust any of this feedback, and teachers can also leave additional comments and feedback as well. I'll point out here just really briefly that this is a response where the student got the right answer. Was the question here that we've solved a couple times here. The correct answer was 44. They got it correct. They got a 1 out of 4 because they didn't explain their work. Like this is really core to who we are. Is like we think that being competent in math means not just getting an answer, but actually being able to share and explain. And we see really powerful things come of that expectation. So this is that teacher dashboard. If students tried multiple times, we will save all of their attempts. Teachers can see any of those attempts. And then we also have the AI analyze the entire class and show trends and insights for teachers. So I go to the insights tab here. We're actually going to surface for the teacher, what are your top student responses in the class? What are your exemplar responses? And then what are some of the mistakes that your students are making and who's making those mistakes? And we'll group students around common misconceptions for the teachers so that you can see perhaps who you need to pull for a small group or where you would go next. We've seen this used in all sorts of really powerful ways in the classroom. We'll just share one example of this is teachers who will actually have students work on this for a few minutes. They'll find a student who's giving a really strong response, and they'll actually play that response in front of the class and have students do a turn and talk with their neighbor around what makes that a 4. What is it that we're seeing and hearing here that is really meeting the mark? And so using it as an instructional tool as well to support everyone in the class to then go back and try to revise and improve as well. So that's just a quick snapshot there of that Snorkel dashboard. We also have a progress view where you can see student progress across multiple activities over time. And if anyone here is later exploring Snorkel later today, you can jump into the Snorkel library, which is where if you scroll down, you can find all those IM cooldowns for both version 1 and 360.
Thank you for that demo. The teacher dashboard is obviously a treasure of information in providing teachers insight and guiding their instruction as well. We often hear teachers ask the question, how do I move on to the next lesson if students don't accurately complete the cool down? And it can feel overwhelming to examine student work on a cool down, especially if students don't respond correctly or at all. And our cool downs are designed to assess concepts that carry over to the next lesson to help teachers adjust instruction around concepts that are still developing. So as you just saw, Snorkel can help teachers value mistakes and emphasize the importance of math as an iterative process, analyze and learn from student work for the current cool down, as well as connect upcoming lessons to students' current understanding.
This is all such amazing work that we've seen with our partner. We've seen these really powerful examples of how what you've brought together with Snorkel can bring student thinking to the surface and really support supportive, responsive instruction by teachers. So let's bring it all together here by reconnecting this to the beliefs that sit at the heart of IM Math and how this partnership brings those beliefs to life in the classroom every day.
Absolutely. So at IM, we believe that all students have brilliant mathematical ideas, have valuable experiences and perspectives, can make sense of and solve problems, and can learn grade level mathematics. I think that it's pretty clear up at this point how Snorkel helps and supports us in this mission. And I think, John and Annie, you were going to tell us a little bit more about how you see that partnership being effective.
Yeah, I think so much of our core DNA is built around some of these very similar beliefs around what our students are capable of, and our students are capable of so much more than that just fits into a box. Actually, think the bigger topic that we are also really involved in right now is around like what role can or should AI play in the classroom? And I think one of the things that's really core for us is we want to make sure that we are using AI in a way that doesn't undercut student thinking, that doesn't undercut productive struggle, that really expresses a belief that our students are capable of doing high levels of math. And so we really are intentional about trying to position the AI in a way such that we're actually asking students to explain their thinking first. We're trying to celebrate their ideas first. We're trying to have them make sense of those things first. And then we'll provide them with that timely support and give them the opportunity to adjust. One other like little nuance here in the platform is when students try again, when they respond, we actually don't let them just make a 10-second amendment to their previous response. They actually need to re-explain their thinking. And it actually creates a little bit of friction. We have teachers will reach out to us and say, like, why can't my students just create like a 10-second amendment to their thinking? And I think, again, I would circle back to some of these same beliefs here that are on the screen, which is that, A, we think our students are capable. And we think that's really powerful for them to have to synthesize their understanding and put together into a cohesive whole again. And so we want to provide them with that opportunity and support them to do that.
And just like our beliefs that students have experiences and ideas that are valuable, IM also believes all teachers bring valuable experiences and perspectives to the math community. And we're in this community together. So John, can you share how Snorkel supports teachers in making these kinds of decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so like I mentioned before, I was in the classroom for 10 years, and I really don't think that AI is going to replace teachers in the classroom. Teachers always have a valuable role to play in the classroom. But if we can do something for teachers, it's we can hopefully help them to scale the impact that they're having by allowing them to, again, better capture student thinking, better see and understand how their students are thinking, and then surface those trends so that they can use those to be responsive in their instruction.
Thank you, everyone. We've got some great questions in the chat. That's going to conclude the presentation part of this. We've got some wonderful questions that can build on some of the things we've seen. But before we move into those questions, I first just want to take a moment to thank our presenters for this engaging and thoughtful webinar. Seeing these live demonstrations is really amazing, and it makes me excited to see more of what educators can do through our certified partner, Snorkel. So now, if you haven't already, this is a great time to drop some questions you might have into the Q&A box. And you'll find that at the bottom of your screen. We've already had some great ones come in. So while I give people some time with that, as we gather your final questions, I want to make sure you know how to access IM's open resource curriculum and how you can also get started using Snorkel immediately for free. So first, if you haven't already, you can explore the full version of our IM version 360 curriculum at accessim.org. You can also scan the QR code on the screen and head straight there. If you haven't registered for an open access account yet, you'll be prompted to verify your identity as an educator. This helps us ensure that students aren't accessing any restricted teacher materials. If you have a colleague who's already verified, you can ask them to invite you directly and skip that ID verification step. Of course, if you run into any issues, our client engagement team is always there to help. And if you'd like to stay in the loop for future webinars, new resources, and updates, we invite you to join our mailing list. You can find a link to that in the chat. Now, many people have already asked, how do I get started with Snorkel? So to get started, you can follow the short link on the screen. You can, which I'm also going to place into the chat here. Oh, John beat me to it. There you go. As you get started, you can direct your questions to partnerships@snorkel.app. So that is how you can get started with these wonderful, wonderful resources. In addition to webinars like this one, our IM experience is all about connecting educators through meaningful, ongoing opportunities. That includes our webinars, but also our blog, podcast, case studies, conference sessions, and other interactive resources that help you bring the IM mission to life. Our IM Experience webpage brings all these touch points right together. And so you can learn more about that here at our IM Experience. Now, let's take a look at some of those questions that have come in. So I think one of the first ones we wanted to take, this was around the scoring rubric. So wanting to get a little deeper into why the responses are scored out of 4. Is there a rubric available for students or teachers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think to make it really simple is part of it is just standardizing it. So we make every activity out of 4 points. And then on that 0 through 4 scale, there is again an AI generated, well, depending on where the question comes from. So in our library, if it's an IM question, there is criteria for success that's pre-set up that is actually aligned to that specific IM unit or lesson at that grade level. If it's a question that teachers are putting in themselves or creating themselves, our AI will actually generate criteria for success for that question and show it to you as the teacher. And then you can actually edit and adjust it. So you can really customize and hone it. And I've seen some teachers do some amazing things with this, where let's say they're working on addition at the younger grade levels, and they want students to be using more sophisticated strategies or different strategies around counting on instead of counting all. You could specify that to the AI and give out feedback that's aligned to that. And so there's quite a bit of teacher control that you have around what the AI is looking for on any given activity. But we do standardize it and make it out for make it part of making the reporting easier as well for teachers and for students.
Great. Thank you for that, John. Another one was related to the student feedback, wondering how many responses do students get? Because your demonstration showed two. Are there more than two responses given to students in the Snorkel platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. There, teachers can set the short answer is teachers can set that. It actually was just a feature we introduced here back in January. It used to be that there was no limit, and we used to talk to teachers who would say that they had students who were staying in from recess because they kept going on Snorkel, which on one hand you could see view as a beautiful thing. On the other hand, for some students, perhaps there is something that's, getting in the way, or they're maybe obsessing over it in a way that's not productive anymore, right? And so we give teachers the option. You can limit the number of responses and number of attempts that a student can make on an individual activity. The default is that there's not a limit, but teachers could set that limit to one or two responses if you want to.
Excellent. And then there was a similar question on revisions. Are they able to view their previous responses as they revise?
Yeah, great question. So any response that they've created, they can go back and view. It's on a separate page. But one of the things, and I know Annie just showed a quick screenshot of what this looks like when she was demoing. There is the option for them to see their previous feedback while they're revising, so they could see that side by side as they're working through a revision of their work as well.
And let's see, another question had come in. People were wondering about accessing the free version. Anything that you all wanted to say about when people go to create an account?
Yeah, so you can sign up for an account at snorkel.app. There was a question, or I think one of the things that often will come up is around student data privacy. Well, we are in all 50 states. We're happy to sign a data privacy agreement with your school or district if that is needed. But yeah, we take student data privacy really seriously. I know Annie shared earlier just some of our partner districts, especially specifically around ones that are working with IM and with Snorkel. But we are thousands of districts that are not working with IM, but who are using Snorkel in other ways as well. And so just know that we're in all 50 states and happy to support you if you are exploring Snorkel further for your school or just for your classroom too.
So really quickly, I see just a message in the chat about adding tools that are needed to write with Chromebooks. One of the other things that we can do in Snorkel, you know this, math is best done on paper, is that students can actually take a picture of their responses written by hand. So if you're using a Chromebook, there's like the built-in camera that they can submit that along with their spoken explanation, and Snorkel will still give feedback based on that.
That's great.
Can I add a couple? I know questions that often come up is around like, do I have to have my students talk? And so just want to address that real quick because it comes up pretty often. I think like philosophically, like and I think with the IM team, we would probably agree with this. Like we think the talking piece is so valuable, and we think our students are so capable of doing it. But I'll add a little bit of nuance and color to that. There is the option as a teacher, you could set activities up so that they don't require talking. It could just be their visual response. So that is always an option. B, I think a lot of it really comes down to like teachers' expectations and how do you support your students to do this? Sometimes I've talked to teachers who are like, can I really have 30 kids in my classroom talking at once? The answer is yes. It works really well. The AI is really good at picking up the voice closest to the microphone. I'm in classrooms every week where students are sitting there talking, explaining their thinking, and oftentimes they don't have headphones. Most often they don't have headphones. And it does a really good job of picking up and understanding the students' responses. And then one other little story. I was talking to a teacher the other day. She asked me, what about my students who are uncomfortable talking? They're afraid to talk. And I said, I was talking to a different teacher the week before, and that teacher had told me he had a student in his classroom who had autism, and that student was nonverbal. And he said he hasn't heard that student speak all year. And he gave him a Snorkel activity to do in class that day. The student spent a couple minutes on it in class, and the student actually took his Chromebook home and he recorded a 4-minute explanation of his thinking at home that night. And that teacher got to hear his student's voice and hear that student's thinking for the first time all year. I just share that one little vignette as like I think there's a really powerful thing that happens when we give our students the opportunity and push them in the belief that like they can share and explain, and we're going to encourage and support them to do so. And of course, have been in the classroom. I know there's all sorts of challenges and nuances and exceptional cases to that as well. But I think that's really core to our DNA is how do we get our students sharing and explaining their thinking and their math, and really believing that all kids are capable of it.
And Kevin, I see your comment in the chat just to elevate it. You're saying that it's because it's really wonderful. You said that you believe it also helps break down the risk-taking barrier that many students feel when asked to share their thinking both in writing or orally. Yeah, because they can have a negative judgment from their peers and teachers, but hopefully the AI does not.
One of the fun instructional practices we see teachers using that for is the fact that it's an objective third party sort of talking point. So when students want to sort of dig deeper into whatever they've gotten on their explanation of thinking, they will work with the teacher I just observed in like talking about that specific piece of feedback, and it's treated as very, very objective. So it's just like another way to encourage discussion.
Well, fantastic. So, team, are there any other questions that I may have missed that were coming in that we wanted to take here?
There's just a quick question, I think, here from Missy around KidM. We don't have a direct relationship with KidM. We do have a direct relationship with IM, but the cooldowns, IM cooldowns are pre-built in the Snorkel platform. Super simple. Missy, to your larger question, super simple to share Snorkel activities with your students. You just share a link or a join code, so you actually don't need to worry about rostering or anything like that. Share a link or a join code, and they can hop in there, respond, and you can collect that data through Snorkel as well.
That's great. Thank you, John. Well, we will still be available for questions. You can always reach out to Snorkel or to us at IM. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you're walking away with excitement and inspiration for how you can make the most of this amazing partnership between IM and Snorkel. We would love to hear your thoughts. You'll find a short feedback link going into the chat right now. Your input helps us to continue to design meaningful, effective professional learning experiences like this webinar. So again, a big thank you to our wonderful partners, John and Annie at Snorkel, for their collaboration and shared commitment to supporting math educators. We hope to see you at a future webinar event. Thank you for all you do to help us in creating a world where all learners know, use, and enjoy mathematics. Have a great afternoon or evening, everyone.